Alright guys, welcome back to episode 6 now of Fish Learns Poker, where I'm just documenting my journey, learning poker from the beginning, going through the Carrot Poker School. We are currently playing at 10-0, and that is the graph that you're seeing on the screen. That's for the previous 2 or 3 weeks. I realise it's been a while since I've uploaded. I've had a few things going on the weekends where I usually record. Had a party and then was in Brighton this weekend, but I wanted to get this out and get back on track with this. I've still been playing during the weeks, but just been slacking on the videos basically. I'll touch on the graph in a second, but as far as study goes, I've now completed grade 1 of Carrot Poker School, and I've got grade 2, but I'm debating whether to go back through some of the later lectures in CPS grade 1, just because I feel like it's not very solidified. I was going to go through the entire grade 1, but some of the early ones I've already covered a few times. I've written notes and I felt like I understood the theory there quite well, but it's on some of the later ones that I don't know whether I was rushing to get it done or just not going through it slowly enough. So I think maybe there's 3 lectures towards the end that I'm going to go back through and then maybe move on to grade 2, and then I can start looking at some of the exploitative courses like cash injection and grade E. But that's that. The graph is not looking too hot, as you can see. In the first half, our red line was tanking, as was the blue line. I'm not sure if this was, like, it's a tiny sample still, so I don't want to give it too much weight, but I do think I was calling a bit too wide when I first started, because I think this was when I was coming back from a week of no playing. And I think it just took me a little while to get back into the swing of things, and the blue line took an absolute beating. And the red line was also probably just not finding the right bluffs and also calling down too wide and then giving up later. But in the second half, and again, tiny sample, but it does feel like something's clicked in my head the past 5 days or so. Just when I'm playing, the decisions seem a lot clearer, especially when making those river calls. I've been re-watching Pete Clark's From Losing to Cruising series that he did with, I believe Mark is the guy's name, which I really, really love. And I've started re-watching that. And one of the big things is talking about, when facing aggression on the river, you need to evaluate whether you have a bluff catcher or not, and then take a look at whether you think that line or that node in the tree is particularly underbluffed or overbluffed, and if it is underbluffed, then you need to just throw your hand. I'm not saying I'm perfect at that yet, but I do think towards the end of this sample on the screen now, like, I was getting a bit better at recognizing that villains at 10-0 just aren't, like, facing 3 barrels. They're very rarely just gonna pull out a sick bluff on the river there. So if they do go over the top, then I'm just going to give them the credit for it if I don't have a value beater. So that was really cool. Also been increasing my aggression a little bit, including some 4-bet bluffs, with not too many to be fair, but just with, like, your classic ace deuce through 5 suited. I'm not sure what Pete actually recommends for the micros, but I feel like people are just not 4-bet bluffing enough in the micros, so gonna start throwing that in and see how it goes. But yeah, there's the weekly. I'll quickly pull up the overall so you can see. You can tell by the stats on the right as well, we are far from crushing it right now, but I think going back over grade 1 and just trying to be a bit more consistent in my decision making process should be good. I'm going to start reviewing hands more in the Discord, because I did do that a few times, and I found it super valuable. But I think just doing it more often, like there's some people in there that are, you know, posting daily, and they're just getting a lot more value out of it than me, and there's nothing that's stopping me from doing that other than laziness. So if I want to eventually get to like 100 NL, I need to start taking that more seriously. So yeah, before we take a look at, I think I've got 4 hands just to have a look at. I just wanted to outline what I want to have done before the next video. So I think going back over those 3 lectures from grade 1 and taking notes like I did for the earlier ones in grade 1 would be good. So I'm not even going to think about grade 2 for this next week. And then again, just putting the same sort of volume I'm putting in. I'm splitting it up at the moment into like 2 or 3 sessions throughout the day, so I'm not burning out or like getting mental fatigue, so I can hopefully still implement what I'm learning. But and still 2 tabling, 2 reg tables on stars. So yeah, that's about it. So I'll just pull up some hands now. We'll quickly go over them, and we'll call it there, I guess. So let's get rid of those. So first hand, we are dealt ace jack off on the button. Cut off, going to be 3-betting this in this configuration. He calls the 3-bet. Flop comes jack 3-5 monotone, and we do have the ace of clubs. So on this flop, I'm going to be using a smaller sizing, and with this particular hand, you know, we've got top pair, so this is going to be a value bet, and I need to make sure I'm aware of that when I'm placing the bet. I imagine I'm going to go for B33 here, but I think it's easy for me to get carried away just having the ace of clubs. Like, we have a value hand here, so we don't need to get too crazy. So we B33, and we get raised, and I don't think with this hand we're going to be going anywhere, so make the call. Turn comes a 10 of diamonds. He then c-bets for half pot. Again, top pair with the ace of clubs. We're certainly not going anywhere. I guess at this stage it's probably likely that he's got... Well, I don't think it's that likely that he would have a set. I don't think 3s and 5s are going to be... maybe 5s, but I don't think 3s are going to be calling a 3-bet too often pre, but maybe they should. Maybe that's... I need to go back to the charts, but again, with this hand, I don't think we can go anywhere. And I think the reason I picked this hand is because we get checked to here, and I've accidentally just double-clicked it there. But we get checked to, and I was debating here about going all in, or at least betting, not for value at this point. But with the ace of clubs, I do think after condensing against, what was it? So villain raised us on the flop and we called, and then he polarized again with a half pot sized bet on the turn, which we then called and condensed further. So with this check, I thought maybe I had the opportunity with the ace of clubs to maybe bluff it off and just say like, yeah, I've got the flush here. But I didn't end up making that choice. I did just check it down. So I'm still not really sure. This is probably another hand I should throw in the Discord server. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, was this a missed opportunity for me? Would it push him off of sets? So he did end up having a set of 3s, which, you know, to me feels like a slightly loose call pre, but I suppose in this configuration it's not that terrible. But could we have pushed him off that? I'm not sure. People don't really like to fold sets at this stake, but maybe on a monotone flop like that they would. I don't know. But yeah, let me know what you think about that one. Just thought it was interesting. Try and get through this next one a bit quicker. Queen 10 off in the big blind. We get raised by cut off. Folds to us. We're going to call with this. And we flop 2 pair. We're going to procedurally check across. I've clicked the river button because I'm a donkey. So he bets just under half pot. This range is obviously going to favour the pre-flop raiser quite a bit. But with this particular hand, I think we'd be okay raising this, which we do. I suppose the board's pretty terrible for our range. But I just think with this amount of value in the hand, I think it's fair enough to raise. I don't know if I'm overplaying it on this wetter texture, but sort of a brick turn with the six of spades. So I think at this point I'm just going to be value betting. So I usually simplify my turn bet sizing to B75. So I'd expect to see that, which we do. We get called. And then a five of hearts on the river. So the flush gets there. We do block some flushes. And I think at this stage, I don't know if this hand on this particular texture is worth 3 streets of value, so I'd probably prefer a check or maybe even a block bet. I've been trying to implement block bets recently. I don't know if this would be a great spot for it, but maybe like a really small bet, and if they go over the top, just muck the hand. Because if we went all in here, I don't think we're going to be getting called by much worse. Maybe ace king. I just don't think there's too much that's going to be calling us down that's worse. So I don't mind a small block bet here or a check. And we do go for like a block bet. Villain raises us. I think this is a pretty easy fold. Going back to what I was saying earlier, I think this is now a bluff catcher through and through. Villain's not going to be doing this with anything weaker. And do I think this is an over or under bluff spot? I think if we go back to the action that got us here, so we check raised the flop and then barreled for B75, which he then called, and then led out with this tiny block bet on the river. So I think this is a clear fold. I hope I make the fold. I do. So, we're finding some folds. I think that's the correct play. I mean, you guys might think that's terrible, but I think the me from like a few weeks ago would have found that very difficult to get rid of, because I focus way too much on absolute hand strength and still need to work on getting that relative hand strength at the front of my mind. King Jack suited on the button. We raise. We get 3-bet by the small blind. Going to be calling this. I think that's potentially a 4-bettable hand in this configuration, but I'm not too familiar with those sorts of things. I would say my 4-bet and potentially my 3-bet range is pretty inelastic at the moment in terms of position, which isn't great. So I should probably work on that in the future. We get a 6-3 queen 2-tone with the flush draw for us. He's led out with the classic B33 and a 3-bet. I don't think we need to raise here. I don't think there's a huge amount of urgency. We still have an overcard as well as the flush, so I don't think we really need to be raising into this. It's not like an amazing texture for our range either, so I think calling here is fine. Turn is the 4 of spades. Now going for a B75. This is interesting. So I would be very inclined to call here just because of the implied odds that if we do hit it, we're probably going to be getting the rest of his stack here. But yeah, I think with 2.4 to 1, I think that's a fine call. Again, I don't think there's really any motivation to go over the top of him here. I suppose the four of spades maybe, like, no, I just don't see it. I think it's a call. And then eight of spades. So I can't remember what villain does here, but I remember I posted a hand. In fact, let's see what villain does here. He does check. Okay, I think this is the hand that I posted in Discord. So yeah, villain checks it over to us after we've condensed our range pretty heavily. He's got an extremely polarized range at this point with the 3-bet and then 2 c-bets after that. So we're going to have a pretty decent range advantage here. And I do go all in because of that fact. And at the time, I thought I'd absolutely butchered this. I thought this was terrible just because I was so focused on having the flush blockers, which would be blocking villains' folding range. But I didn't really consider before I posted it in Discord about the whole sort of how our ranges are going to look after the action sequence here. So if I was the aggressor here and I was the one making these bets with King Jack suited, hoping to get the flush, like, I think in that situation where your range hasn't condensed by calling bets and you have polarized, I don't think it's a great hand to then go for, a triple barrel bluff on the river because of the blocker properties. But when you're facing that aggression, it was shown to me that it's a much more favorable world. So bluffing off here is absolutely fine, and I didn't need to beat myself up for it. I just thought that was really cool because before I was just so focused on the specific hand I had and nothing else, and this has just opened my eyes to potential river bluffs because some of these spots are quite common, like with missed flushes, both as the aggressor and non. So yeah, this was fine in the end. We do get called in the end. Not that it really matters. Villain had King Queen off, which I don't know if he should be calling against that. I'd probably fold. But moving on to the final hand, we face a 3.3 big open from the hijack. With Jack 10 suited, I'm going to be 3-betting this. So immediately from this bet size now, I'm probably going to be thinking in the back of my mind that this player is probably a bit of a fish. Not sure if I had other reads on him at the time. 4-9 queen. I would say that's a pretty favourable flop for our range. And obviously with this hand in particular, we've got an open-ender, so I don't think we've got like a crazy nut advantage. So I think the classic B33 in a 3-bet pot, C-bet looks good to me. We lead, we get raised to some strange sizing. Obviously with this hand I'm not going to go anywhere. I don't think we really need to be shoving all in here. So I think I'll just be calling. 7 of diamonds doesn't change a whole lot for us really. It's not a particularly dangerous card, but we're going to check it across now. Villain goes 28 big blinds, so I guess here, again, this is one of those spots where it's like I can see, like Jack 10 and open ender, that you've got decent equity when you go over the top here. I just don't know if we have the fold equity to make that worth it in this spot, so I'm probably going to be calling here, which I do. The problem is now, like, there's 117 in the pot. There's no way we're getting him to fold anything now. Like, the SPR is just way too way too high. So I think that's why I tagged this hand for review, because I wasn't sure if just going over the top at this point if that would get any sort of fold equity, but I think by the river, I don't think there's any hope for us at all in getting a fold with a shove here. We do just check it down in the end, and he had Queen Jack, so I don't want to be super like outcome oriented and stuff, but when I see him playing Queen Jack suited like that, like very aggressively, I don't think this is a raisable hand on the flop from villain, and I think at some point, like maybe facing a turn re-raise shove, he would have been folding that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Again, it's another hand that I can get reviewed in the Discord channel, but I think there's potentially some opportunities here for me to up my aggression a bit, fix my red line, and yeah, avoid these sort of more passive lines when villain can just get there with hands like this and beat me. But yeah, sorry if this was a bit all over the place. I feel hella rusty. I know it's been like a few weeks, so I'm going to try and be a bit more consistent with these. But those were the hands. Let's pull up the overall graph, the outro. So overall, not a brilliant week, but small samples. Don't want to give them too much credit. I think towards the end of the sample, like things just seem to be clicking a lot more in my brain. I think that's something that I can focus more on as a sort of heuristic for how well I'm improving and doing at the tables than the outcome. So I think I might even start journaling just at the end of each session, just write a few things about how I felt it went, how clear my decisions were, because yeah, as we all know, it's a super high variance game. So that could be a good way of trying to measure my progress. But yeah, like I say, I'm going to review some of the lectures from grade 1 and get back into the tables this week, do some of the journaling, and hopefully next week I'll be able to post a winning graph. But of course I don't care about that because we're not outcome dependent. But it would be nice, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I think that's going to conclude this episode. Still going, we're at 30k hands now, so hopefully on this second stretch going towards 100,000 hands, which I hope I really don't have to play 100,000 hands at 10NL, but if we do, we do. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a week's time for the update. And yeah, let me know how your games are going. Seen a few of you on the tables over at Stars, which is always fun. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling now and sign off. So thank you for watching. Appreciate all the comments, and yeah, I'll see you in a week's time, guys.